Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's stream of the LHGPL semi-finals between Omega Gaming Syndicate and Baby Pengies. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Samalkram from Omega Gaming Unleashed. Samalkram, how's it going?
Going pretty well. Excited for this best of five. As you can see, we're already into draft, and a lot of junglers. A lot of junglers gone. Graves, Kindred, Hecarim right off the bat.
Yeah, they're going to be immediately focusing out some of those key meta jungler picks, so we might expect to see, falling back to something a little bit more off meta, maybe something a little tankier, maybe something a little ganky heavy, because unless there's a Lilia ban here, or perhaps a Lilia if there isn't a Lilia ban here, rather, as two of the stronger farming junglers, and now all three of them have been banned out, along with Hecarim on the other side.
Okay, this is interesting that they first picked the Gragas on the Syndicate side because the top laner for Pengies, King of Apes, has played 5 Gragas games. So, very, very intentional pick away by Syndicate.
So the Gragas top of being picked away by Omega Gaming Syndicate, not necessarily going to be going to that top lane, might be a jungle pick for them over for Fallen Artemis as well, remains to be seen, but is something that King of Apes is not going to be able to be taking advantage of this game. Instead, they're going to be locking in the Volibear, another flex pick between mid and jungle there.
Yeah, and this is so looking at Pengi's history, they've had LeBlanc banned against them quite often. 14 games they've had it banned against them. Don't expect to see it in the first phase, but the fact that Syndicate aren't concerned by it might indicate we might not even see it banned, and Pengies could very well play it. So
That might be one of those old Frog and Anivia situations where you get so used to having a champion banned against you that you never actually end up going for it.
true, true, and we see the Sivir, which is really surprising when there's stuff like Senna, the Caitlyn, Jhin, all these meta ADCs available. Speaking of Jhin, Syndicate lock in Jhin for Twisty. So surprised to see the default to the Sivir, but I think Sivir should be fine into Jhin. Not a and we see
Yeah, that's going
Diana.
to be the Diana lock-in as well. Really interesting to see the Sivir prioritized so heavily over by Baby Pengies. Feels like it's kind of been outside of the meta for a while, muscled out by this like Caitlyn, Ashe, Jhin, Senna
Hmm.
style we've been having going on for a while. And the only champion really banned out of that set is going to be the Ashe, and they've got the Jhin picked away from my gaming syndicate. So curious to see how this Sivir is going to be able to survive in kind of that sort of long-range pokey meta in the bot lane.
Yeah, and we see Penguins go for the R3 Renekton, meaning Volibear is going to go into the jungle, unless we see some shenanigans with Renekton jungle, which I doubt. And Intexi opting for the blind pick Diana. So they're going to... I expect mid lane bans thrown against Pengies now, since they blind picked their mid laner. But this is comfort for Syndicate. Intexi has played a lot of Diana through playoffs on the regular season.
Yeah, and Texie been focusing a lot more towards those heavy engaged champions and has had a couple of Diana picks already. Also, a pretty effective combination with that Gragas. You can suck the people in, and then you can blast them all away with your explosive cask. In addition, that's going to be a Renekton lock-in over for the side of the Pengies, so that is going to be likely a Volibear jungle, given that the Renekton's now been locked in as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm actually... You mentioned the Renekton pick, and it's somewhat surprising because on Syndicate, the player who has the most unique champion picks is Blood King. So unless Pengies have a really clear idea of what they expect Blood King to select, given the current champions picked, then I would almost rather them just counterpick mid lane on R3 rather than blind the Renekton, unless that is Renekton mid, which I'm...
Yeah. Well, the Blind Renekton has had two bans going out to defend it. We've seen Blood King, I believe it was Blood King, pick the Karma
Mhm.
into the Renekton previously in this tournament, and then also the Shen, just a generic safe lane that you could pick into the Renekton without, expecting to be bullied too heavily. You could block stuff with the Spirit's Refuge. But that's no longer going to be available. So now the counterpick to Renekton has to come through here. Blood King has to decide what he's going to go for. Could he have trained the Gragas top to respond to the Gragas top that King of Apes has been bringing out so much lately? Or is it going to be the Gragas jungle like we expect, and there'll be another counterpick? Looks like it's going to be the latter as we're hovering the Kled, and that's going to be a Kled lock-in.
Now they have support counterpicks, so they have a lot of options. They could opt for something, uh, an Enchanter support because they have the Kled Diana Gragas to ensure they're engaged. Like Morgana could come in here. You could even have something like Braum Braum does really, really well against Sivir. A lot of Pengies damage goes out the window if the Unbreakable goes up.
And
So,
so much of the support meta is based around these engaged supports, but you don't really need that on this
mhm.
team comp because you already have the Gragas, you already have the Kled, you already have the Diana, and so you can pick a peel champion like this Tom Kench.
Yeah, the Tahm Kench is surprising. It's certainly good against Thresh, for sure, but still surprising. Not a lot of pressure in lane. I Unless Twisty and Rutinium just absolutely gap the bot lane of Pengies, priority should go over to the Sivir and Thresh, as we see Mordekaiser locked in. And now I'm left scratching my head. I want to say Renekton top and Mordekaiser mid, and I don't. I'd imagine the Mordekaiser matchup's pretty favorable. Sorry, the Diana Mordekaiser matchup is favorable for Mordekaiser, but
I would agree.
still, very, very unorthodox. You don't see the Mordekaiser mid too often. And also looking at Pengi's comp, it's very short range and very reliant on the Sivir ultimate to force fights, unless, of course, Syndicate oblige them using the charge and the Gragas to start a fight.
Yeah, and now we do have this interesting kind of Sivir plus triple bruiser comp coming through from the side of the Pengies today, and that's gonna be that's an interesting kind of old style team comp. You know, we used to talk all about back a couple seasons ago about how it's just a Sivir comp. LOL. You just pick bruisers and you pick Sivir and you ult and you run in and you win every fight. And this is kind of a callback to those sorts of comps. Going to be a lot of focus around just hard engaging with the Sivir ultimate and with the targeted CC that champions like Volibear or Renekton or Mordekaiser with the ultimate can bring out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Sivir also, looking at the Kled and Tahm Kench, these are two champions that stack a lot of HP, and something that Sivir's not proficient at is shredding tanks. She's a crit-based marksman, scales really, really well, but doesn't have any inherent ability to bust through large health bars. And so I can see eventually there becoming a problem for Pengies where they just don't have the damage to kill the Tahm Kench and Kled. The Kled has some of the largest health bars plural because of his passive in the game. So with the tabbies on top, it's gonna be really, really hard to kill Blood King on the Kled, and so I think it's really, really important that Pengies get the Renekton ahead, get the Mordekaiser ahead, because they don't have tank busting if those champs aren't online come mid game.
And additionally, it's not like the side of Omega Gaming has gone for an especially squishy team comp either. There's no true mages as they're going for this more engage-focused Diana, who's going to be building his Zonias, who's going to be a little bit beefier than you might expect from most of those mid-lane mages. And like you said, the Tahm Kench and the Kled, and even the Gragas is going to be at least slightly durable, going to have that damage reduction on the W as the later game comes out, going to be able to sustain up over time. And yeah, this lack of kind of pure damage carries over on the side of Pengies might end up being a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, and something that I'm wondering about on the Syndicate side is they have the Gragas, Diana, the Kled, and those champs don't necessarily synergize. The explosive cast can disperse the Moonfall targets, can disperse targets away from the charge, and that anti-synergy could be problematic if Syndicate don't communicate well around it. So I'm going to be paying particular attention to how they choose to use the explosive cask. In my mind, I would be using it either to look for a pick or to disengage the Renekton or the Volibear or the Mordekaiser off of Twisty. Because that's really the only target you need to protect. The Diana's going in, the Kled's going in. The TK, well, you don't really care about the TK. So it's really all about protecting Twisty with the explosive cask. And fingers crossed that we don't see any oofs with the Moonfall explosive cask combination.
Yeah, for sure. And if that is how they choose to use the Gragas as more of a peel tool for this Jhin, then they are going to find that it's very difficult on the side of Baby Pengies to get in on this Jhin in particular because of the Tahm Kench being able to continue to add to that sort of peel ability, having a Gragas ultimate plus the Tahm Kench eat to get you out of the first round of CC. Definitely going to be a very viable option for them, and I feel like is one of the more significant counters to the Sivir comp that you have available is just the Tahm Kench eat itself, being able to devour people out of the way of those sorts of hard engages, and like being able to pretty much nullify one of those selection-based CCs that we talked about earlier is going to go a long way to shutting down a comp like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Tom Kench is also pretty useful because if the Mordekaiser looks for a flank, the Devour can buy a lot of time. If Twisty's really patient staying in the belly of Tom Kench, then it might be that Mordekaiser's just blown up before he can find the ult on the vulnerable Jhin. And even then, really easy itemization for Syndicate. They just buy QSS and then they're out of the Mordekaiser ult. Just like that.
Yeah, we are going to see a solidification of whether King of Apes or Saruman are playing each champion. It is going to be King of Apes on the Mordekaiser, which would make me think Saruman is over here going to be playing the Renekton.
Yeah, so this is what I was wondering about. Just based off of the history of the picks for Pengies, I didn't think that their mid laner would pick up the Renekton. It is good into Diana. No mistake about that. The Renekton, the empowered Renekton W, really, really powerful at nullifying Diana's shield, and Renekton's lane bully early game makes it really, really hard for Intexi to create advantages. And so, I think it's smart that they're putting Renekton mid. But I still think Intexi has the advantage over Drake Control, even if he's late, just because Moonfall is much more impactful than Dominus in those skirmishes.
Yeah. Definitely going to be an interesting jungle matchup to see early on, too. Clearly, the Volibear going to have like a little bit more trade potential early on, but Greg is slippery. He can go for some unique paths. He can get some hard ganks off early, and he also has access to a lot of burst potential, so going to be able to follow up and bring a lot of damage to some of these ganks that might occur in the bot or top lane. Might be a little bit harder to pull off in mid, especially against Renekton, who's going to be doing these double dashes, but the side lane is certainly going to be ripe with opportunity.
Yeah, a lot's on Fallen and sorry, one moment. And Korgmore to create leads for their laners because, like I said, Mordekaiser and Renekton need to have advantages going into the mid game, or Syndicate's comp will just win every fight because Sivir takes a while to ramp up, and Sivir is not going to be powerful come mid game. But Jhin on his Stormrazor, i.e. first spike, will be, and so. If the Renekton isn't ahead, if Mordekaiser's not ahead, I just don't see Pengies having enough damage to chip through these huge health bars and tools that Syndicate have drafted. So
yeah, and Sivir taking a long time to scale up like that, like you said, is a lot of the reason that she's kind of been forced out of this meta lately. It's a lot of focus on champions that spike on 1 and 2 items these days, which is going to be more fitting to things like the Jhin and like these bruisers that we see in all the other lanes, but not so much the Sivir. So going to be something to watch out for, whether or not the side of Baby Pengies can kind of withstand the early aggression that's going to be able to be brought out from Omega Gaming, whether they're going to be able to stay up, and whether they're going to be able to defy the meta in that way.
Yeah, and another thing to point out in the bot lane matchup is Sivir does nothing from behind and struggles to do something while ahead or even against Syndicate's comp. On the flip side, Twisty on the Jhin, he doesn't have to be ahead to contribute to his team. He can just sit mid lane with Curtain Call and just slow the entirety of Pengi's comp, and that allows Intexi, that allows Blood King to do damage. Twisty's not the sole damage threat on Syndicate's comp, and so he provides more than just damage. The pick potential with Deadly Flourish, the traps, the vision he can provide is really, really valuable. And so another big reason why Jhin is in meta and Sivir is not.
Absolutely going to be something to watch out for. As we've already said, tonight's matchup is the semifinals in this single elimination bracket. The winner of this match will be going on to the grand finals, and the loser will be out immediately and will have to settle with their third, fourth place. We've got this best of 5 going on all night, so don't go anywhere, and we will be right back after we load into the game, get everything synced up, and are all ready to bring you the action. Welcome back, everybody. We are just getting into Game 1 of this best of 5 for the LHGPL semifinals between Omega Gaming Syndicate and Baby Pengies. I am Gordo, once again joined by Samalkram. Samalkram, are you ready to start this best of 5?
I am, and it looks like Korgmore is as well, going for a deep ward.
Korgmore just walking right in through Fallen Artemis, even though Blood King's right next to him. So gonna come up here, might be forced to flash, and is going to do so. Early flash blown for the side of Omega Gaming Syndicate.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Blood King didn't flash once he landed the bear trap on a rope, because once he lands the bear trap and flashes forward, the Volibear can't clear the tether range.
That ward is definitely in turret range, so that's going to get cleared right away.
Yeah.
Fishing around, seeing if he might be able to interrupt that recall would certainly be valuable and would set back Korgmore's start on this Volibear. No such luck, though, going to be returning back to this lane.
Yeah,
this jungle, rather.
And Texi might be a little peeved with Blood King for that, because that does mean the Renekton will get level 2 off the first wave. So, yeah, we'll see if that has any long-term consequences for the mid lane matchup.
Yeah, definitely something to watch out for. Saruman does have the ignite into Intexi's teleport in this match.
Yes. Surprised he went for the ignite, but not the PTA. Not going completely all in on the early game. Just a bit of a compromise between both modes. Yeah. We can see Fallen going for a full clear. He went from red to Krugs, so he's not going to be on the map for a little bit. And the best place he can show up early is going to be mid lane. So probably intentional, because that mid lane matchup is extremely volatile.
Yeah, Volibear also going to be doing the full clear over on his blue side, and just like that, he's not actually. He's walking right past those wolves, going to be going into his red buff after this to try to hit level 3 as quickly as possible. Might be back out on the map looking for ganks after that.
And you can see just there off that trade, they landed the death sentence, but not a lot of damage to follow up.
Yeah, just a little bit of trading going on in the mid lane. And Kanina, Kanina? I feel like it's Kanina.
Yeah,
going for a lot of these hooks early on this Thresh, trying to pick out the Tahm Kench early on if he can, but it is going to be Korgmore going for an early game in this top lane, or an early gank rather, as Blood King is trying to back off, but is going to end up getting stunned anyway. There's a teleport coming in from Intexi. This cannot be matched by Saruman, so they're going to be kiting backwards. Immediately Blood King going to flash away as soon as he gets too low. Now King of Apes getting chased onto by Intexi. Intexi going to flash forward, blow out the flash from King of Apes. Now Korgmore is getting engaged on. He does not have access to the flash because of the level 1, but not quite going to be able to pick anything up. Now Saruman has walked up to the top lane. He's brought Fallen Artemis along with him, but likely both sides just going to back off here.
Ooh, that Death's Crest almost landing. And getting the remount.
Once again, Blood King going to be going up aggressively, going to remount there, take a little bit of damage, but all in all, a positive trade as he's able to get Skarl back under him.
Yeah, and I liked what Syndicate did there. They stayed with Blood King to make sure you could crash that wave safely, because if Pengies were allowed to freeze that, that would have been really, really bad for the flashless Kled.
Saruman might be looking on to Fallen Artemis here. They see each other in the river, dancing back and forth a little bit.
Who got it?
Saruman trying to contest for this Scuttle Crab, but it does end up going towards Fallen Artemis' side. But still, just a little bit of pressure coming out for Saruman, knowing that his lane opponent has been forced to recall.
Yeah. Really, really great instant teleport. Didn't get a chance to comment on it till now, but great reaction from Intexi to save his top laner. Whew.
Yeah, definitely a good use of that teleport advantage that's going to come inherently when you're up against this Ignite lane. What you give up in some of that early kill pressure and trade power, you make up for in map pressure. And Intexi, able to make it happen there, doesn't get a trade back in return, but does get the flash out of the opposing top laner and does keep his top laner alive for it. Now, Fallen Artemis is going to be coming in for a gank here. King of Apes does not have access to the flash. He's going to be knocked back. He's going to be jumped in on by Blood King, and they're likely going to pick this up. Here comes the bear trap.
Oh, no.
Low cooldown, but not quite, as King of Apes going to just walk away here at sub 100 HP. Now there's an engage in the mid lane. Saruman is going in here onto Intexi, going to be landing those follow-ups, target-based CCs along with Korgmore, and that's going to be first blood going over to the Renekton and to the side of Baby Pengies.
And that's exactly what Pengies want. They burned the flash on Intexi topside when he over-aggressed trying to kill the Mordekaiser. Went flash for flash, but that's not what you want against the early game Renekton Volibear combo, and it does end up costing him. So they'll be able to turn this into the first Drake as well, because while Tahm Kench and Jhin don't offer that much, especially with Intexi gone, and Intexi doesn't have level 6, so there's no threat of the huge Moonfall to swing the Drake skirmish.
And these Renekton Volibear ganks, the Ruthless Predator into the Thundering Smash from each of these targeted CC Bruiser champions just keeps Intexi down for so long there, and they're able to pretty easily pick him up. They're going to be able to repeat ganks like that too, as long as Intexi has flash down. And right here, they're going to claim the first dragon of the game as a reward.
Yeah, they get the first Drake, and you mentioned that Intexi has no flash, and Korgmore does. So the flash Thundering Smash is all but guaranteed against the Diana. Doesn't have Moonfall, doesn't have flash, doesn't have any defensive summoners or basic abilities because the Ruthless Predator destroys the shield. There is no shield for Intexi on this Diana. So Intexi's going to have to play really defensive, really safe until he has access to flash and Moonfall.
Yeah, and already itemizing over towards one of those cloth armors and towards the second Doran's Blade, buffing up a little bit of that HP and going to try to stay alive for longer if he can. Going to try to find a way to last out these ganks. Now, King of Apes getting a lot of pressure down on the Blood King in the top lane with a 2-level advantage now. This is likely going to be equalized a bit by the big wave, but still something to be considered.
Yeah, and this is the consequence of the top lane skirmish, the early TP. A lot of XP was split between 3 members on Syndicate to the 2
now,
on...
Korgmore going to be going in here and going to have backup from King of Apes in the top lane. Fallen Artemis might be a bit out of position here. He loses the Smite fight and ends up having Korgmore take away that Scuttle Crab as Fallen Artemis has to retreat back into his own jungle. Now, Blood King going to be under a lot of pressure in that top lane as they know Korgmore is lurking around in their jungle.
Good combo from Mordekaiser.
Pulled in by the Death's Grasp. They're getting incredibly low on the mount. Going to be dismounted there pretty shortly. And looks like that's going to be the goal here as Volibear is lurking around in the Tri-Brush, waiting for the wave to get pushed in here, waiting for that Kled to get dismounted.
Oh,
but
no.
He's going to give it up and he's going to fall back.
Yeah, so that was pretty dangerous for Blood King. He will have the flash up shortly, but there was a window where I think he could have been dove. Didn't have ultimate, wasn't mounted to even use it in the first place, but no volley ults, and I think that's what swung the decision for Pengies. No volley ult to shut off the tower, not a dive worth going for.
Yeah, but Korgmore going to be hitting that level 6 point pretty soon and likely going to be going for one of those dives in the top lane. King of Apes has been able to consistently push this wave in against this Kled matchup, and that's going to be an easy gank opportunity for them as Korgmore is easily able to force his way into this blue jungle consistently in this matchup.
Yeah, something else that I could see Pengies doing is bring the Moby Boots Thresh mid lane with the Volibear and just dive Intexi. Intexi not very powerful right now, sitting on the double Doran's Ring and the cloth armor. Has access to the flash and the Moonfall, but
going in here onto Twisty, going to be exhausting and flaying him backwards, going for the death sentence, but it's going to be flashed away from by Twisty, and now the re-engage comes in. Fallen Artemis with an excellent prediction barrel going to knock the opposing AD carry back into his own team, and now it's going to be the flash forward from this Hail of Blades Tom Kench going to easily pick up the Thresh on the other side, and Twisty going to pick up a kill as well. That is a 2-for-0 in the bot lane for the side of Omega Gaming Syndicate.
Yeah, that's a good turnaround for Syndicate's bot lane. The problem... Wait... Okay, no. So the Volibear did get the Herald. I just didn't get the notification on screen. So that's the trade that they made. 2 kills for the Herald, and they might look for a dive top lane as well.
Now, Intexi getting engaged on by Saruman. Again, Saruman has a lot of trade potential now, and here comes the dive in the top lane. The turret's going to get turned off by that Volibear ultimate, and here comes the Rift Herald trying to take away a couple of plates. Going to get 2 here, but not quite taking down Blood King, and now Blood King has quite a bit of his bar back, but not going to be enough as Korgmore just solos him out as he comes out of the Death Realm.
And that was so close, and it looked like King of Apes didn't quite trust the volley ult. It did shut off the tower, but he still flashed away from Blood King, despite the disabled tower. But it works out in the end. They get the charge off. I would have liked to see the charge used later. They go for the dive, they get the kill, and then they execute the tower with the true damage from Shelly. But still, a good play overall, and they inject a ton of gold into their coffers. But not a significant gold lead yet, only about 800 gold. It's not nothing to write home about yet. Okay, and look at this. Rutinium's going for a roam mid lane.
Yeah, looking to see if he can get another kill here. He's got the Hail of Blades available, going to get 2 or 3 auto attacks off right away. Now going to potentially be able to consume here. Going to go for the stun off the Q instead. Managing to stay alive off of these Qs. Now it's Twisty actually going to get soloed out in the bot lane, and Korgmore is getting engaged on by Fallen Artemis. Going to go down here as well. Here comes the charge coming into the top lane, along with a Tom Kench ultimate to cut off Saruman. Saruman likely going to be picked up here by Blood King and goes down. 4 men in the mid lane now going to be pushing in for Omega Gaming Syndicate as it is a cross-map trade 2-for-1.
Yeah, great roam from Rutinium. That's exactly what I expected the Thresh to do. And sadly, Twisty does go down on the bot side, and they lose a number of plates as a result. But Syndicate should be able to secure the second Drake.
Might be going in for an engage here on the bot lane. Twisty is pinging his own ultimate as Rutinium is going forward, trying to get some slows, but not quite going to be able to do so. Fallen Artemis, though, is here on the backup. He does have access to his ultimate. It's going to be a flash charge into all of them to knock them up, but it's only going to land on a Kanina, who's likely going to be picked up here, gets consumed up by the Tom Kenshin, is going to be executed by that. Now, Sivir has to back away here, has already used the spell shield.
Ooh.
Might not be able to survive, flashes away in order to dodge that last shot. Now, Korgmore is fighting with Intexi in the river. They're going to back away from each other, and this is likely going to be a dragon start, at least attempted by Omega Gaming Syndicate.
Yeah, they got some low health bars, and fortunately there's no TP on King of Apes just yet. Ignite is available.
Now, engaging here onto Intexi, going to be a flash forward, going to be the CC layered on top of each other as he gets feasted away by Tom Kench, but now Tom Kench going to actually jump back out into the other team to try to fight them, but manages to flash out and stay alive on the side of Intexi. Korgmore now going to get executed down by Twisty. That is another 2 for 0. That is going to be an easy pickup of the Dragon as we're just panning up top lane. Check out these guys for a second.
Really, really close fight for Syndicate on the bot side of the map. I'm actually really surprised Intexi didn't die to the Ignite. But I think he might have Triumph, and that might just be enough. So, 1 Drake apiece, and still not much of a gold lead for either side. Kills in the favor of Syndicate, but I think this tier 1 tower will go down in the favor of Pengies shortly. All you have to do is bring up the Volley Bear, and I think it's gone.
Yeah, no, Blood King has not been able to have a lot of power in this top lane. It did not expect this flex pick of Mordekaiser to come and face him down. He was picked as a counter pick to the Renekton, and is now having quite a bit of trouble getting dismounted yet again, going to have to return to base. No teleport, no charge, might lose his turret here.
Yeah, and he also missed the cannon, which is just added salt in the wound. Let's see. But things that are going well for Syndicate are the Fallen is ahead on the Gragas, 2-0 and 5. Gets the early tab eyes. Really like to see that against a very physical and auto attack based comp on the side of Pengies. And also Renekton is running out of steam. Down CS. And I'm going to toggle gold real quick. And gold is pretty close. About 100 gold separates the two laners. And that's, considering Intexi's start and what happened early, that's more than you can expect. Especially with
and considering these two champions, you know, the Renekton expected to be getting ahead in these early laning phases. That's what you pick the champion for. Diana going to have a little bit more potential in these team fights, has that big AoE ultimate, has the access to tools that Renekton just can't match outside of the lane phase.
Yeah, and I have to say that the Tom Kench has really surprised me. Has been instrumental in securing... Okay, we have a trade topside.
And now Blood King going to be going for this top lane trade here, going to get ulted down by the Mordekaiser, likely dismounted here. This could have been a mistake over the side of Blood King, as both parties appear to just be standing off here. King of Apes does not want to be tanking up that turret in the Death Realm or otherwise, so just going to back away from each other. But Blood King, once again, finding himself dismounted and having to move away as Korgmore is looking for this gank. But meanwhile, there's a teleport from the Tom Kench in the bot lane, going with that ultimate to try to pick up the Sivir, misses the spell shield, and is now going to get taken down by Twisty, who is now 3-1.
And that's such a shame, because the Sivir has been spell shielding quite well throughout this game, and that's the one that cost them. Just a slight miscalculation on the speed of those projectiles, and Sivir goes down. But they get the topside tower. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, no, getting picked up there by the Deadly Flourish. Unfortunate for the side of Pengies, as they are now going to once again give over another kill to this opposing bot lane. And outside of top lane, they are not doing well on this map. Going to need to find some more solutions here, as Saruman getting engaged on by Intexi, who appears to be winning the fight at this point. They're going to trade ultimates, but it appears that Diana is winning this fight, as Intexi going to finish off Saruman there and get the easy kill.
Yeah, that's just the power of the Ninja Tab. It just nullifies so much damage that Renekton can output, and didn't have the Ignite, or didn't choose to use the Ignite. I'm going to think that he didn't have it.
Now looking here onto Korgmore, does not have access to the ultimate, but does have access to Tom Kench, who's roaming up right next to him, as well as Fallen Artemis. They're going to be forcing this Volibear back over. Here comes the charge, trying to pick up onto Korgmore, not quite going to be able to do so, but actually the dash over, followed up by the bear trap on a rope, going to lock him down. He's forced to ultimate away, as Fallen Artemis now looking for the follow-up, does not have access to flash or ultimate yet, and so it looks like Korgmore going to be able to retreat under that top turret and live to fight another day, but now full control over the Rift Herald goes to Omega Gaming Syndicate.
Yeah, King of Apes does have teleport. Good hook onto
Oh, and that's a
Intexi.
big death sentence landed onto Intech, so you gotta believe he's gonna be able to pick this up as the AD carry for the side of Pengies going to be able to pick up a second kill over on this Sivir, looking to be a big power point heading into later in the game. Death sentence this time going to miss out, but there is going to be a teleport coming into the river. Fallen Artemis stuck 1v3, now has access to the Tom Kench to likely consume him out of there, and does do so. He gets pulled into the Death Realm, though, as King of Apes going to look for the solo kill here. He flashes away, and now is going to find himself right next to the Volibear once he actually comes out, but here's a big engage coming in from the side of Fallen Artemis over on the ramp into the jungle. Going to be picking up 2 kills there and now returning back to try to fight onto Cordmore. Twisty still has been avoiding out all targets so far this fight. As Fallen Artemis now going to take a lot of damage from this Mordekaiser. He is so powerful, but he can't win a 1v3 as he's now just getting 1v2'd here. Triple kill goes over to Blood King as once again Omega Gaming Syndicate win the fight and are now pushing into this mid lane.
That was a great fight from Syndicate. Rutinium played that fight so well. He gets the Devour onto Fallen Artemis, buys so much time in the Death Realm. King of Apes unable to kill the Tom Kench in time, and that swings the fight. The Mordekaiser's out of the fight doing nothing, and that allows Blood King and Fallen to clean up the Sivir and the Thresh, and the fight's over. So, they should get the Drake as well, with Fallen coming off a respawn, but Volley will be here to contest, and they've brought... The Lantern means that Sivir gets here as well, so... It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. Fortunately, Intexi has teleport and has access to a deep ward in the Pengies jungle.
Baby Pengies does have positional advantage here. They've started up the dragon incredibly early here. It doesn't even appear that Omega Gaming has vision of it yet. They're now aware that it's going on, but it might just be too late as the third dragon is going to get picked up for the side of the Pengies. They are now up 2-1, something they are winning on this map. It's going to be the dragons.
Yeah, and so that's a very real win condition for Pengies getting to the Mountain Drake Soul and then the Elder to follow. I think that Syndicate made a very conscious choice to give the Drake. They recognized that they were slightly behind on the reset. Of course, the Thresh with Moby Boots and the Dark Passage will ensure that more members of Pengies are on the map before Syndicate, and so I think with that in mind, they give the Drake. They traded for the top tier 1. That's okay. And so, but I really would like to see Syndicate contest more proactively for these next couple of Drakes.
Yeah, certainly going to be something that they can't quite give away there, especially with all of these beefy frontliners over on their side. The Mountain Drake is going to be very effective in this game in particular. Now, Omega Gaming Syndicate, though, going to be doing their part to try to accelerate the game and make sure that doesn't happen. They're going for Rift Herald number 2, and it looks like there's not going to be a lot of contesting for it.
Okay, good death sentence.
So that's going to be a death sentence landed up top onto Blood King, going to force him just to dash on out of there.
Another one.
All right, can't joust your way out of this one as now it's on cooldown. Going to get dismounted there from back-to-back death sentences. Well played by the side of Kanina. They're going for a third. Doesn't quite land it.
A bit unfortunate that I think the box damage was eaten by the dismount, so he actually didn't do anything with Thresh Ultimate. Maybe that's a kill if he times the box better.
Might be, but it's at very least going to be a turret pickup over for their 80 carry. Going to get Lantern out of there. Well played by the two of them to pick that up in the 2v1 situation.
Is Mordekaiser taking red buff, or is he giving it to Renekton? Oh, okay.
It does look like he's going to be giving it to Renekton here. Just going to be returning to his top lane to try to farm it out. The opposing red buff going to be picked up here by Twisty.
Yeah, that makes a little more sense. Renekton makes more sense than Mordekaiser, but I would have preferred to see red buff going to the Sivir. I like to see all the tab eyes being purchased from Syndicate. The Renekton is on Blade of the Ruin King, but that spike's pretty late. We're at 18 minutes. Approaching 20 minutes, and the Bork alone isn't that threatening of a spike anymore. So, Renekton a little bit behind the curve, and fortunately, Blood King has a lot of kills to make up for his deficit in CS. And the gold lead is in favor of Syndicate, so I don't think
and we can see we were talking in Champion Select about how important it was for the Mordekaiser and Renekton to end up ahead, and it really hasn't quite worked out that way. Mordekaiser moderately ahead in CS, but now behind in kills, going to be up about 1,400 gold. But the Renekton, on the other side, is now, in fact, behind 500 gold. This isn't the kind of advantage that they wanted coming in, as now some of these frontliners, particularly Blood King, who's now sitting on 4 kills and quite a bit of gold, as well as the 2-item Gragas, are just sitting there a bit beefier than they would have hoped for at this point in the game. And they're doing less damage than they hoped for at this point in the game.
Yeah, so I mentioned that the Renekton and Mordekaiser are very pivotal to Pengies' comp. The Renekton is just not able to match anyone in the side lane right now. He can't beat the Diana, as we saw, and I doubt he can beat Blood King, who, despite having no armor, has a lot of HP and does do a fair bit of damage with the Titanic Hydra. So I think at this point you'd expect the Renekton to pivot to a more utility pick, like building tanky, just looking to protect the Sivir, because he's not a backline threat anymore. And
Yeah.
Volibear's on an adventure. He's looking for a Collapse on Intexi, along with the Thresh.
Yeah, and Texi is now stuck in a 1v3 situation, doesn't quite realize it yet, starting to find out now, as Kamina going to be able to land the death sentence here, going to be followed up by Korgmore, as Intexi now realizes he likely might have no escape, but going to actually flash over into the Baron pit, going to be followed over by two of these Bruiser champions, both have ways to jump over the wall. Meanwhile, King of Apes getting engaged on in the top lane, as tanking up Baron, and Texi's going to be taken down here, has support from his AD carry Twisty, but it's just too late. Now the Rift Herald actually going to be dropped down in this bot lane, as three members of Omega Gaming Syndicate going for a big push here. They've just picked up King of Apes. They're going to pick up a turret. Now they're going to try to push up onto this inhibitor turret.
Yeah, and I like this play from Syndicate. I think it's great death
Blood
sentence.
King going to once again get death sentence, but gets eaten up by the Tom Kents just in case. Rutinium saving his teammate there, making sure he can stay alive. Twisty now coming up to regroup, but it might be a little bit too late. Here comes the Sivir ultimate, the battle cry coming through to try to start the fight up. Blood King flashes forward to get the remount off. Now going to try to fight this out with himself as the front line at almost no HP beneath that Scarl. Now meanwhile, Rutinium going to be backing up as a huge pickup for Twisty as he manages to snipe out Korgmore from across the map. Now a teleport in from Intexi going to cause the rest of Baby Pengies to back off as full control over the dragon goes to Omega Gaming Syndicate.
Yeah, and the problems I outlined with Pengies comp are becoming a real issue now. They can't kill the Tom Kench. They can't kill the Kled. And so that just lets Twisty set up with the Jhin ultimate, and he gets a really big pick onto Korgmore. And the Sivir I think is doing a fair bit of damage, but it's not significant damage. It's not damage that's winning them the fight, as clearly seen there. And so the Sivir can push as much as she likes, but okay, that was... Oh, he's not level 11. That feels bad.
Yeah, it's a big cooldown there for the Tom Kench, not quite being able to get the flank that he wanted, but
Yeah.
all's well and good. They've picked up a second dragon. They're going to go and get some vision control around the Baron now, as this is the only major objective left on the map.
Yeah, and I don't think either team is going to be willing or capable of starting the Baron outright. They need to secure a pretty decisive win for them to even attempt the big purple worm. So I'd expect to see more pick attempts. I liked what the Thresh did, Kanina on the Thresh, looking for the 1v3 on Intexi, which resulted in a kill. He has the Moby boots, and he should be using that more. But
Yeah, certainly a good roam opportunity they had there was eventually going to result in a kill. Unfortunately for them, King of Apes getting engaged on the opposite side, not able to keep himself alive in the same situation. And with the other team having access to that Rift Herald, it meant that they have to give up a turret for it as well.
yeah, and they lost the Drake, and they lost the fight, and they used King of Apes teleport, and those are all big tools burned. So I think if the Tom Kench gets to level 11 and has access to the Abyssal Voyage again, they could look for a pick onto the Mordekaiser and then maybe translate that into Baron. Because a lot of the...
Big crit comes through for Twisty. He is looking at pretty powerful here on two items on the Jhin. Going to be landing a nice long-range shot off onto his opposing AD carry. And this means that Sivir's going to likely have to recall.
Probably she does have the refillable, maybe has Bloodline as well. Oh, they yoink away the red buff with the Devour.
Yeah, that's going to go over onto Twisty this time. Omega Gaming decides if you're not going to give the red buff to your AD carry, we're going to give it to ours.
Yeah, and the Siege isn't amazing for either side because the Sivir, the big advantage of the Sivir right now is she can wave clear. She's on the two items, the IE and the Essence Reaver, so without any solid ways to pick the Sivir like in this situation, Syndicate's not going to have a lot of pressure. They can keep crashing the wave, but Sivir just clears it right back.
Yeah, but luckily for Omega Gaming, they've already taken all the outer turrets, so they can just try to move into this jungle, choke out the vision, and prevent Baby Pengies from being able to actually come out and get any of this jungle CS. They can start choking them out of the game and just growing this gold lead larger and larger while they wait for the next dragon to respawn.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a max range death sentence landed on Rutinium. They're going to take this opportunity to go in here. Rutinium going to eat up Fallen Artemis to keep him alive, but accidentally spits him out right back on top of the Volibear ultimate. Meanwhile, Twisty unfortunately gets picked off by the Mordekaiser. That's going to be a 2-for-0 over the side of Baby Pengies. They're now in a good position up in this top side, going to be forcing the opposing team back off here. As, almost finding one more target on Fallen Artemis, but not quite being able to do so.
Yeah, and the death sentence narrowly missing in Taxi. But now the Sivir's going to be able to take a tower, maybe two, with the Jhin being dead. Kled looking for a flank with the charge, but I don't think it's there. I don't think he can go for
They are
it.
in a 3v5 situation right now. They don't know exactly where Saruman is, but I assure you he is waiting in the wings. As Omega Gaming, I was skeptical of the pick on the Rutinium and Fallen Artemis, but really able to make it work out there. They're able to get off the hard engage that they need while they have a numbers advantage and are able to turn that around and get an advantage for themselves, starting to pull themselves back in this game.
Yeah, game is still very, very close. And of all the turrets to break right now, breaking the mid-tier one's probably the most important. It really opens up the map for Pengies. They have a lot more opportunities to aggress into the enemy jungle, and that means they can find more picks. They can look for more of those favorable fights like we just saw.
Yeah, and we're going to see another close fight likely to be occurring over this dragon. A huge objective for both teams in this game. Both teams want to be getting onto that soul point so that they can start challenging for the mountain soul on the next respawn. And see Omega Gaming Syndicate well ahead of the curve, moving on into the opposing team's blue jungle, taking up vision control wherever they can so they can see the approach.
And this could very well decide the game if both teams commit to this, and whichever team's on the back foot in vision and setup could very well overcommit to the fight, lose the Drake, lose the fight, lose Baron, and the game could just be over at that point. So I expect both teams to take great care in setting up their vision, moving together as a team, because a single pick, like if they pick Korgmore like they did last Drake, then they're on soul point for Syndicate.
Yeah, definitely true, but also need to keep in mind that if neither team can afford to just give this up because of positional disadvantage, if you give it up, you're going to end up having to fight next time on soul point.
Yeah.
And you can't control just one potential miss smite going one way or the other. Too risky.
Ooh, on the hunt
Both
pops.
teams decide to go for the fight on the 4th Drake, and now here we go. We're going to see Blood King going in for the charge here, but he has no follow-up for the rest of his team. Rutinium going to be eating him up to try to save him and keep him alive here, but he's going to end up dismounted anyway. Now Intexi is in the back in a 1v3, has no backup while he's stuck in this zone. He is now going to be re-engaged on by the other team. He gets taken down. Twisty's already been picked up on the other side. Now Rutinium getting engaged on a double kill over to King of Apes. Blood King now getting flashed in on. He's likely going to go down as well. It's an absolute wipe for the side of Baby Pengies as they win the fight 4-0 and are going to come and take this dragon and likely even the Baron.
So this is absolute.
Oh, wow, all right. A flash forward for Kanina. Maybe a little too hyphy there, but still a great win for the side of Baby Pengies.
Yeah, really. I don't know what Blood King was looking for. I don't know why they started the fight that way, but nevertheless, huge for Pengies. They're going to get the inhibitor. And they also wisely sent Korgmore to solo the Drake because there's no way anyone can contest. And Texi's the only one with teleport, and, well, he doesn't have smite. But because they opt for the inhibitor, they don't get Baron. But they are on soul point, which is huge. And that was probably the best fight that Pengies were going to get. The Jhin was isolated. You could see that the Renekton and the Mordekaiser were allowed access to the Jhin. Rutinium was forced to run forward to save Kled, which I think was a mistake. He needs to stay with the Jhin. And it seemed like everyone on Syndicate wanted to go forward, and Twisty's here getting 1v2'd by the Renekton and Mordekaiser, unable to do anything.
Yeah, so we didn't get a direct shot of what happened to Twisty in that last fight as we were focusing on Intexi off in the back line going in. But certainly was not able to get the peel he needed there, potentially, as you said, because Rutinium had to come up into the front line and start working with Blood King. And that just means that he's able to get picked up by some of this dive comp from the opposing team. They are so fast with the Sivir ultimate coming in. They have access to so much crowd control. They can lock down this Jhin pick incredibly easily. Saruman going in on Rutinium, going to blow out the cleanse here, but now there's a follow-up CC coming in from Korgmore, but there's also a team coming in to collapse on a Korgmore. A huge death sentence landed on a Fallen Artemis, going to prevent him from engaging here. He goes into his Zonias as they're now going to be fighting on top of that Golden Gragas. He ends up going down as multiple members over on the side of Pengies are low, but they cannot be taken down. They're going to pick up a double kill as Intexi trying to split push up top here. He's going to take an inhibitor, but his entire base is under threat as there are only 2 members of Omega Gaming Syndicate defending against a 5-man push here. Make that a 4-man push as Korgmore has retreated to prevent the split push of Intexi. That's going to be the Death Realm coming in onto Twisty. He cannot win this 1v1 against King of Apes. Has to kite back around and try to make him tank up this turret, but he can't do so. He's going to be taken down. Here comes a teleport from Intexi. They're not going to be able to burst through the turret fast enough.
No.
He might be able to complete this, but no, he gets stunned out of it. He's stuck in the base with Korgmore now, has nowhere to go. Second Nexus turret has gone down as well. They're going to be focusing on the Nexus, and it looks like Baby Pengies going to be able to turn this game on its head and take it down. No soul required. Up 1-0 in this series.
Great decisive push from Pengies. I did not think that was a game-winning position. But Intexi overcommitting for the split push, saying, hey guys, I can end 1v4. Like I can beat the four man push from Pengies. He couldn't. Korgmor comes back and stops his TP, and that's just game. And it seems to me that Syndicate were in control. They had weathered this early game storm of the Volibear Renekton, and Texi was in a good spot. They were winning skirmishes, getting Drakes, and then it seems like overconfidence set in. That overzealous engage from Blood King just swung the game in the favor of Syndicate, or in the favor of Pengies, and they took an inhibitor, they took Drake, and put Syndicate heavily on the back foot, and it just didn't seem like Syndicate were able to recover after that, and the game's just over.
Yeah, a couple of well-played fights, a good swing of the gold over by the side of Baby Pengy is going to allow them to take this game 1, but they still got to win at least 2 more if they want to be able to take this series and move into the finals. We're going to take a short break here while all the players get into their next champion select and discuss what they'd like to do next, but we will be right back to the next champion select. Don't go anywhere.